Hello, hello, and welcome back, friends. This is a book review that I was not sure I was going to do, but I decided that I still had strong feelings about it, so let's go ahead. Also, I have these dark salted caramel Rolos as my snack of choice for today. They are delicious. However, should I be eating them while I'm trying to talk? Almost certainly no. All right, so today we are going to be talking about another thriller because I had recently read a fantasy and I kind of tend to go fantasy thriller or fantasy thriller fantasy because thrillers tend to be a bit of a snappier read. Sometimes I do two before I go back to a fantasy, but that's how I keep my palate cleansed. So usually what I do after I finish reading a fantasy book is then I go to my library's website and I just look for in the thriller category for stuff that's available now. And that's what I did with this book. And let me tell you, when I started out, I was honestly enjoying myself. This book was headed towards being a 3-star book, which 3 stars from me is not a low score. 3 stars means I enjoyed the book, it just wasn't memorable, and a lot of thrillers fall into this category for me because I use them more for entertainment than I do for, depth. But then this one fumbled the bag so hard it filled me with rage. So let's talk about it. But first, let's read the blurb. It's kind of a long blurb, and I feel like thrillers should not have long blurbs, but let's go. The book is Do Not Disturb, and the blurb goeth thusly. Quinn Alexander has committed an unthinkable crime. To avoid spending her life in prison, Quinn makes a run for it. She leaves behind her home, her job, and her family. She grabs her passport and heads to the northern border before the police can discover what she has done. But when an unexpected snowstorm forces her off the road, Quinn must take refuge in the broken-down, isolated Baxter Motel. The handsome, kindly owner, Nick Baxter, is only too happy to offer her a cheap room for the night. Unfortunately, the Baxter Motel isn't the quiet safe haven it seemed to be. The motel has a dark, disturbing past, and in the dilapidated house across the way, the silhouette of Nick's ailing wife is always at the window, always watching. In the morning, Quinn must leave the motel. She'll pack up her belongings and get back on the road to freedom, but first she must survive the night. So you're probably noticing that this has a lot of notes of other famous thrillers. There's some Psycho, there's some Rear Window, probably some other ones I'm not noticing, but the elements are there. Like the Baxter Motel, the Bates Motel, it's all there. This book is not a retelling of any of those things, but you can definitely feel the homage to those things. Nigel is here, by the way. So a bit of a long blurb, but you can definitely see what the author was going for. And I was excited. I was hyped because I was like, I like all of those things. And then hopefully this book will take those elements and do something interesting and unexpected and surprising with them. And so I was on board, honestly, when I read the blurb from my library's website. And at first, it was going okay. It was fine. I think I might kind of go through the plot because I am going to spoil the ending because the ending is what ruined this book for me so catastrophically that I am going to have to spoil everything. So I think I'm going to set aside my normal strategy, which is to go characters, plot, world building, prose. I am going to just kind of go in order of plot. Hopefully I can remember it. I am, once again, winging it. That's all I have time for these days, friends. But let's go. Let's talk about Do Not Disturb. So, obviously, what is the big crime that the main character commits? Why, that crime is to murder her abusive husband who was trying to strangle her. She kills him, and she panics, but she doesn't panic. She makes a lot of mistakes that would have been understandable if she was panicking, but are less understandable by way of the fact that she also kind of has a plan. I would have liked it better if she just panicked and left the house and then kind of tried to come up with a plan on the fly as she went. But she had just enough of a plan where I then had to stop and go, okay, if you have enough understanding of this, then why didn't you go to the police and say that it was self-defense? Because she had the finger marks on her neck from where he was trying to strangle her. So if she was cognizant enough to make an escape plan, I feel like she would be cognizant enough to go, I'm gonna inform people that this was self-defense, because it very clearly was.
After a certain point in the story, she does go, oh, hey, wait a minute. It's pretty obvious that he was trying to strangle me. I have bruises on my neck. I can claim self-defense. But she's like, well, I'm in too deep now, and this thriller plot has to happen, so I can't go do that.
She buggers off, and she, like, gets rid of her phone, and she's just trying to get across the border. Her plan is to basically just kind of, like, disappear. She's like, I'm going to get a fake ID. I'm going to pay for everything in cash, and I'm going to get out of here. She's really bad at it. She's really bad at escaping because, like, she leaves a trail. Cameras in gas stations and use of her credit card until she gets cash, and just, she's really bad at it, and the cops do find her. The blizzard is the only reason that the cops don't find her sooner. And I do like the element, like, as soon as I read about her, like, being trapped by the weather at the motel, I was like, yes, because I love thrillers where people are trapped somewhere. I love them. You tell me that a thriller has characters trapped someplace, usually by the weather, or maybe they're on an island or something, and I'm like, give it to me. I like forced proximity, but like in a danger sense, not in a romance sense. So she's cruising along, but her car is not very good for the weather, so she pulls off into this little motel that she's like, this motel is like so small and so out of the way, and I barely saw the sign that the cops probably won't look here right away. So she goes there, and of course, it is the creepy, super rundown motel run by the cute guy whose wife is in the creepy house in the back. And like, you do wonder, how does he have this business? Because he's legitimately surprised when she shows up at his door. He's legitimately like, you want a what? Oh, right, I run a motel. He's baffled. Like, yes, the building is run down, but how is he affording it at all? I have no idea. Maybe he's just independently wealthy. But she gets a room. This guy always sends everybody to the same room. He's got a motel full of rooms, but he always sends people to the same goddamn room, which is like across the hall from his one longtime resident who is an old lady who's just lived there forever. And also right next to a room where apparently a woman was murdered. And immediately, of course, your reader red flags are going off. You're like, okay, who is the murderer? Because there's really only three people. It could be the old lady, the guy who owns the motel, or the guy's mysterious and creepy wife who is always just sitting in the window across the way. And of course, since you've seen Psycho, you're like, is the wife real? Because we never see her move. Is she real? Or is the husband also the wife? Is that what's going on? Is he losing it? Are we going to have another DID situation? We don't, so thank goodness for that. It's a different trope at the end of this book that makes me filled with rage. But, she stays the night, and everything is old and decrepit and falling apart. But the guy is really nice, and he brings her a sandwich. She both plans ahead and doesn't plan in, like, equal amounts. And, of course, also, her socks are soaked from walking in the snow, so she goes to borrow some socks from the old lady across the way, who it turns out is a fortune teller. Okay. And basically, like, overnight, just, like, creepy things happen a little bit. And she's creeped out by the motel, and she hears about the girl being murdered. And the guy is nice, but also slightly, potentially creepy, all of the things that you're expecting. And the next morning, he offers to help her dig her car out, but his wife, seems to be calling him and having some conflict. He has to give up digging her car out, and they go back inside, and she's got to stay, another night. Oh no. The police are closing in. Oh no. Through this time, I should have mentioned that she has an older sister who she misses a great deal, because her older sister raised her after their parents died when the older sister was in college and the main character was in high school, and the older sister took over parenting the younger sister. Sort of a Lilo and Stitch situation without such a big age gap. So she's very close with her older sister, and she's like, the one thing that I regret about this is I'll never be able to contact my sister again. That's important later, but she thinks about that a little bit, like, oh, dang, I wish I could contact my sister. And we get some details about her romance with her abusive husband, and it's all very, very standard, He was rich and psychopathic. You're a wealthy narcissist man. I read a book recently that had an abusive character where the character was just the, abuser stereotype, where he was just mean all the time, always. This abusive character, at least, was the more realistic kind, where he would love bomb her and he would treat her well in between his spells of abusing her. Abusers don't look like abusers 24/7. So she's got to stay another night, and she is feeling really, really sad and down and distressed about the whole situation. And the nice hotel guy, Nick, I think his name is Nick, comes and like feels bad for her, and he's just a sympathetic ear. But she kisses him because she's like, finally, any man who is emotionally available. And so she kisses him. And of course, he pushes her off because he's like, I'm married. I love my wife. No, please. But the wife, of course, can see because why does he put all of his guests in the same room that the wife can see from her window? We never find that out. But his wife sees and he freaks out because she has seen, because she's literally right there staring in the window. Put people on the other side of the building, my guy. But no, he does not do that. So he gets in big trouble with his wife, and you start to suspect the wife. You're like, oh, the wife is definitely the murderer. And right as that happens, we switch POVs to the wife, who is like, I bet you thought that I wasn't real, but I am a real person. And the wife section is kind of hard to read, and I will give you some warning here. She has MS, and a fairly progressed MS where she now uses a wheelchair, and she's having a really, really rough time with it mentally. And I will warn you right now that if you are someone who would have a hard time reading a suicidal disabled character who is suicidal because of their disability, I would advise against reading this book. I do think that it is in character for her. Even I was made uncomfortable by reading it. It was definitely very much like she was diagnosed and basically just decided that her life was over and she's just done with everything. And so she has locked herself in their bedroom. Her husband is like perfect man TM, who is just trying desperately to get her to come out of her shell, to come back into the world and do things. He's like, we will make accommodations for you. We will move your bedroom downstairs. She used to run a diner that she loved. And he's like, we're going to modify the diner so that you can continue to like run the kitchen and everything. Like, I wish that his diner had already been accessible, but he has to modify the diner so that she can fit her chair in and around and such, which I'm sure was an added awesome bonus for the disabled community who wanted to come to the diner. But of course, she's like, no, there's no point. My life is over. Misery, misery, misery. I want to end it all. Her only form of entertainment now is sitting at the window with her binoculars and staring at anybody who comes to the motel. And her husband keeps putting people in the exact same room that she can see into easily. And the whole thing is supposed to be that he doesn't realize that she can do that. But dude, your bedroom window is right there. How do you not realize that she can see into the motel room? Also, why does nobody close their blinds? Like, why does nobody in the motel room close their blinds? I would. I feel like as soon as I realized that the lady was like watching me, I would shut those babies. Maybe there aren't blinds. I don't know. It wasn't clear. But yeah. So we find out about the wife and her tragic, tragic backstory and how she's basically shut down. And the husband did have a moment of weakness where he did cheat on her in that same room because he's an idiot. But he immediately was repentant and was like, I'm so sorry. I'll never ever do that again. Then the woman that he was having an affair with was murdered. Suspicious. But don't worry, this is a thriller book, so whatever seems like the most obvious answer is not in fact that. The wife is like, oh my god, my husband killed someone, but also I still love him because he's my caretaker. Complicated feelings. She really kind of gets over the fact that she thinks he killed someone pretty quickly, honestly. She's like, oh, that sucks, but what am I going to do? There is one point in her backstory where I was already like, oh my god, really? Because when she and Perfect Husband Man are dating, they go to a carnival, on a cute, adorable carnival date where he's a perfect gentleman and wins her a stuffed animal and all those things. But she's like, I want to go get my fortune told. I've always wanted to get my fortune told. So she goes in and it's a tarot reader who draws 2 cards for her. Which like basically never happens. Like maybe there are instances when you would draw 2 cards, but it's either 1 card, 3 cards, or more than 3 cards. 2 is like almost never drawn in my experience and from what I've seen. But the reader draws 2 cards, and I think I know why. And that is because the author only knows 2 tarot cards, and can you guess which 2 cards are drawn? If you guessed Death and the Tower, you are correct, because those are 2 out of the 3 cards that people know about. at all. I'm actually surprised that the lovers weren't drawn, because most people know the lovers, and this reading could have worked well with the lovers card. Like, we could have had the lovers, the tower, and death. But of course, death is misinterpreted. The lady is just like, death, what, your husband will kill someone. Death is in your future if you marry him. And I'm like, that's not what that card usually means. It usually means change of some kind. So does the tower, but that one specifically is like an abrupt, aggressive change that you're probably not going to like. Death is a lot more like a transition that is not necessarily a negative one, even. But yeah, of course they interpret it like, death is coming for you, don't marry this man, death. I'm like, oh my God. Tell me you don't know anything about tarot without telling me you don't know anything about tarot. Like, Google is right there. That fortune-telling session primed the wife character to be certain that her husband is going to do bad things someday, of course. Because she's never had her fortune read before, but immediately she believes this lady, because this lady just gets very intense. But yeah, so we hang out with the wife for a little while, and we find out her deal and how since he cheated once, she's now really, really worried that he's going to cheat again. And when she sees him be kissed by the main character, she's like, he's cheating again! And she freaks out and tries to end it all and blah, blah, blah. And then we cut away from her to the problem character, the main character's sister. And at first, we are following the main character's sister as she is like, the police are idiots, I need to find my own sister. And also the main character's sister's husband is a jackass and we hate him. Like, she borrows his truck without asking him, and he's like, hey, all I really want from you is if you take my truck, please tell me. And she is like, what an unreasonable ask. I tell him when I take his vehicle. Like, it's that, she just hates him. She hates her husband. And he's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but probably because he knows his wife hates him. Her two traits are hates her husband and is trying to find her sister. And for much of her segment, you think that she is trying to find her sister whom she loves. There is no evidence to the contrary whatsoever. We are in first-person point of view, and she is very clearly trying to find her sister whom she loves, with whom she is very close. Finally, we get to the part where the other shoe drops, the big twist of the book, and I was infuriated. I hate this twist so much. I had so many theories. One of my theories, I think, was pretty cool and dark. Again, I keep wanting these books to go darker than they do, honestly. At one point, when the motel owner husband, has the affair, and he's very contrite afterward. He's like, oh my God, I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. I just missed having someone to be intimate with. They have sex for the first time in years. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, this could be cool. Like, what if they are like a murderous duo and they realize that she gets turned on when he kills for her? Here's what I wanted. It didn't happen, but here's what I wanted. I wanted him to be luring women to the motel so he can, quote unquote, act like he's having an affair with them, and his wife can be watching the whole time. And then he kills the woman that he was fooling around with, and then he goes back and has wild, passionate sex with his wife, because that's what turns them on. And she decides, yes, I do want to live after all because of this weird arrangement. And I was like, that would be so dark, and I'm kind of on board. But no, it was not it. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But it turns out the sister, who this entire time we have been in her head, she wants to find her sister and she loves her sister. And then all of a sudden, the author just pulls the veil down and winks at us and is like, haha, reader, I bet you thought that I was a good person, but actually I'm not. I was having an affair with my sister's husband, and when I saw that she had killed him, I went to go find and kill her. Yeah. And one of the main reasons that I hate this, other than the fact that it's way less cool than the ending that I came up with, is because it is one of the worst cases of a character lying to you in their own head that I have seen. This is the unreliable narrator by way of blatantly lying to the reader in a character's own point of view. She is lying to herself. It is in first person. And she doesn't talk to the reader. Maybe if she was being back and forth with the reader the whole time, wink, wink, I'm talking to you, reader, then you could maybe believe that she was keeping things from us. But she wasn't. until she got to the point where she was like, I've been lying to you this whole time. Ha 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 ha. Finger tenting and laughing maniacally. And I was so mad. It was so badly done. It was atrociously done. I'll get my what we can learn from what this book does poorly out of the way early. If you want to know how to not do this kind of twist, check out this book, because this is one of the worst examples I have seen in a long time. And it's already a trope that I hate, and then it was done just horrendously, just insultingly bad. Yeah, I lied to you. What of it, reader? You were so stupid to think that I was being honest in my own point of view? And if you go back and read, omission is a lot of times how authors get away with this. They just omit stuff. But if you go back and read her sections before the reveal, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, she lies blatantly to you, the reader, so that this twist will work.
So I know you're all dying to know how I would solve this problem. Like, say I was developmentally editing this book and I ran up against this. What advice would I give the author in case they wanted to fix it? Now, of course, when I'm developmentally editing, I never tell the author that they have to fix anything. I just tell them, hey, here's some ideas of how you could. And so if this author said to me, you're right, it's not working for me to have the sister lie in her own head, how would I fix it? Here's what I would say, and that is that there's another character, a cop character, who the sister deals with. He is a character from the beginning because the main character thinks about him a little bit too. They've been friends since childhood, all of these three characters together. So if we have to change POV, I would get the cop character's POV so that he sees the sister character behaving as though she's distraught about the main character being gone. She's overwrought. She's got to find her sister who she's cared for her entire life from his point of view, so that he is the one buying her lies. She is lying, but not to herself in her own head. She's lying to him, to the world, outwardly. It looks like she's really, really hunting for her sister. Then, when we find out later, we can still pop into the sister's point of view at that point to be like, haha, actually, I'm not looking for my sister. But because we had it in the cop's point of view, an outside point of view, we never had that moment where the sister is like, LOL, stupid reader, you're dumb for believing me when I blatantly lied to you in my own point of view. Does that make sense? That's how I would do it. Feel free to add how you would do it in the comments below.
It's terrible. It's awful. I hate it. But she finds her sister at the motel and she tries to kill her sister and like stuffs her in a trunk. And then she just decides to go on a killing spree and kill everybody at the motel because why the fuck not? I don't know. She's bored. I don't even remember why she decided to kill everyone at the motel. I was so mad by this point because of that stupid twist. But she tries to go on a killing spree and she gets to the wife. Okay, she does want to kill the wife because the wife was watching through her window. That's her one personality trait, is watching through the window. So she goes up to kill the wife, but the wife gets a last-minute burst of strength where she realizes that, yes, I do want to live after all, actually, now that someone is threatening me with a knife. And so she manages to spring up and tackle the sister and stab her. And then the husband runs in. That's it. And they find the main character alive where her sister put her. And she goes to the hospital and she, gets a slap on the wrist for having killed her husband, but they all agree that it was self-defense. So she could have just gone the self-defense route to begin with, but whatever. I hated that. I hated that twist. And then we get a lengthy falling action section. We forgot about the main character, by the way. She never gets another point of view again. She's just like gone. Or if she does get a point of view, it's extremely short. But I don't think she does. I think we just go back to the wife, because the wife of the hotel owner is the real main character of this book, and it becomes pretty clear that she's the one that the author actually cares about. But now that the wife has got that new lease on life since she was almost murdered, she just does a complete turnaround. And she's like, never mind, I want to reopen my restaurant. And she does. Let's move my bedroom to the first floor. And you know what? I want to have a baby, because everybody knows that no woman is fulfilled unless she has a baby. Now, yes, when they were dating, we do see them talking about kids and that they both want kids, and then she's disappointed when she becomes disabled because she thinks that she can't have kids anymore. And she's like, yay, let's have a baby. But like, it felt so very much like that standard women can't be happy unless they have babies, even though she's got a very fulfilling life, a great husband who loves her, a business that she's running, but we gotta have that also.
To be clear, I'm not shading anybody who wants to have babies. If you want to have a baby, go have a baby. I just personally don't resonate with the trope of to be fully happy, women got to be also wanting and having babies. Also, because she was told by her doctor that she could endanger herself by having a baby. I don't know enough about MS to know if this is true, if this is actually factual, but in the story it is that her doctor said if you have a baby, you could endanger yourself. It could be really dangerous for you to have a baby. And so she was devastated that she couldn't have one. And her MS hasn't been cured. Like, the fact that she could endanger herself by getting pregnant doesn't go away because she's happy now. So again, the messaging for me is, and I'm already feeling grumpy with this book.
And I bet you're still wondering, well, what happened to that woman that the husband had a brief fling with? She died, and you told us that it wasn't him who killed her, and that really leaves only one other person. The old lady. Yeah. But the wife goes to say goodbye to the old lady because the old lady has decided to move back to her home country. Right before she leaves to go get on a flight, she tells the wife, I killed your husband's affair partner because I knew how much he loved you, and I knew that it was just the temptation of the moment, and so I got rid of the temptation. And the wife freaks out and is like, oh no, you killed someone, I have to call the police. But that pushes her into labor, so she completely forgets about it. And then the old lady escapes on the plane, and that's the end of the story. And I hate all of that as well. I'm glad that the wife got a new lease on life and got to be happy and run her business and do everything that she ever wanted. Hooray, with her amazing, perfect husband. But so much of it was just so bleh. Poorly done in my opinion. And we don't even heckin' care about the main character who was our viewpoint character for the entire first half of the book. She never gets another point of view. She's just gone. And we get a brief thing about how she's fine and she didn't get punished super bad for having killed her husband. And that's it. We stopped caring about her. And she was the main character for at least 50% of the book. This was just such a mess, in my opinion. It was a messy, messy book. And I definitely would have had some recommendations if I was editing it, which reminds me to let you know that I am a developmental editor, and if you are interested in hiring one of those, you can hire me now on Fiverr. I have a pretty fast turnaround, I feel my rates are very fair, and I'm extremely thorough. If you're worried about hiring an editor and what that's like, I do have a video about what you can expect, so check that one out if you need to maybe have some of your fears answered if you're hiring an editor for the first time. But yes, that was this book. Not a fan of that ending, and it's definitely proof that an ending can fully ruin a book because it put a bad taste in my mouth for the whole thing. So we've already talked about what we can learn not to do. What can we learn from what this author did well? I do think that the elements that she used from other stories were well done. The homages to other thrillers were well done, in my opinion. But that's about it. End of things that are well done. All right, I have other things to talk about today, so I'm gonna stop this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that I have a Patreon where you can support me, and also check out my books, available now on Amazon. Nigel's still on my lap, but you can't see him, but he and I will see you again next time with whatever it is we happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Hey, I got my eye on you.
Water Tribe.
We're back again for more patrons. That's right, it's patron time. I've got my eye on you, patrons like Laknunga, Ruin Queen of Oblivion, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sunny Shy, Nico, Sarah, Cat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Pudamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, LaFone, Amanda, Celia, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Ashley, Sophia, Maureen, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Anne Sophie, Callison, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah. Wow. Has anyone out there memorized my patrons? Who is saying them along with me at this point? That means that I've got so many loyal patrons who've been with me for such a long time, and you guys are the real GOAT out there. You rock.